Good evening, everyone. My name is David Freese, the mayor of Tonganoxie. I'm calling to order this regular meeting of the Tonganoxie City Council for July 3rd, 2023. Ms. Huntington, will you call the roll, please, and note that I am present?
Yes, Mayor. Mr. Partridge?
Here.
Ms. McCutcheon is absent. Ms. Stevens?
Here.
Mr. Donnelly? Here. Mr. Dale?
Here.
Would you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Seems appropriate.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jake, could you just stand up for a minute? Take in all the glory there. That's pretty nice. All right. Item 2, approval of minutes. This is where we go over the minutes from the previous meeting. Are there any questions or concerns or conversation about the minutes from last meeting? If there are none, I accept a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 3, the consent agenda, where we review the bill payments from the previous month. Are there any questions or concerns, conversation regarding the bill payments? Seeing none, I would accept a motion.
I'll move to approve the payments as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Old business today. This is where we normally have people who sign up to speak on any topic before the meeting. I mean, Mr. Porter, no one signed up? All right, thank you very much. On to new business. Item A, review 2024 budget funding support requests from community groups. Mr. Porter.
Thank you. Tonight we have representatives from 3 community groups. We were expecting a 4th, but we'll check in and see their status. But as in past years, when the city has provided funding to local community groups, to take you back a few years, in 2021 and 2022, the City Council revised and adopted a set of guidelines to ask groups in the community that are requesting funding from the city to present information when they request funds for the upcoming year in a format that allows for consideration on somewhat comparable means. Some of those guidelines are included in the packet as last adopted and revised back in February of 2022. Earlier this year, in early June, the city staff put out a post on the city's website requesting funds submittals to be received by June 26th, and we also reached out directly to every funding group that has previously received funding in the last couple years. We did receive 4 submittals. Those are included in your packet for your review and attention. And we've also, like I said earlier, invited representatives from those groups to come address you, have a discussion about their goals next year, why the city's funding is important to them, and the amount of funding which is also included in that submittal from each group. But in past years, we've typically invited them up to give a very brief introduction, maybe a couple minutes, and then if the council has any particular questions, you can engage in whatever discussion you'd like. We're factoring all these requests into our general fund assumptions for the 2024 budget. So as we'll look at that in the next July 17th work session and other future work sessions and discussions, one important consideration to remember is that is the funding source for these requested funds for each of these groups. So Mayor, if you'd like, we can invite the groups in whatever order you'd prefer, and I'll check in about the TBA representation also and let you know what we hear.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Are the council, do you want to hear from the groups tonight?
Sure.
Okay, cool. Just give us in whichever order they are here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie Freese, and I'm here on behalf of our farmers market. I wanted to share some information with you, and then, of course, if you have any questions, I might address as well. Just for the beginning of our 2023 season, we've had 8 markets so far, and I wanted to mention that our consumer attendance has increased. And so, in fact, I have these totals. We had 456 the first market, 700 the second market, and then we had 221, 260, 434, 313, 367, and then last Thursday during a heat advisory, we had 484 people show up. So on average, about 400 per Thursday. Also, we're excited to announce that our vendor number has increased as well. Last season, we had a solid 10. Now we're up to 14, and 2 more interested in joining in July as well. We continue to have nonprofit booths for free. Team Tongi has taken advantage so far, and the fire department as well. We've updated this season's t-shirts, which I'm modeling tonight. It's a lovely John Deere green. We have purchased 2 more banners to display around town to advertise. And then, of course, we've come up with ways to stay cool because, as I mentioned, the heat advisory. A canopy extension flat for some shade. Also, I ordered a misting fan, which would be super fun for the children as well. Speaking of children, the different activities that I want to pursue more vigorously are scavenger hunts and word searches, and continue with more coloring books and crafts and games. I want to continue to invite local musicians and entertainers to be part of our market, as well as local food trucks. And then we have the idea of coming up with farmers market recipes using the produce from our local farmers as well. Also interested in like a speaker system, so Thursdays that there are no live music, we still have, kind of a music playing. And of course, more shade ideas and ways to keep our vendors as well as our consumers comfortable. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions?
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah.
Great job. Great. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Hi, I'm Chris Roberts, and I represent the Historical Society and Museum. I think we want to just say thank you again for all of your support. But the cool things that we've done this year, History Camp was the first week in June. We had 17 students. First year was 11, second year 14, this year 17. Our theme this year was Kansas Stars, History Meets Science. And basically, we focused on people in Kansas who've made a difference. And it was especially rewarding because the last day of camp, one of the kids looked at the wall with the map of Kansas and pictures of all these Kansans who invented ices and, all kinds of stuff. And said, wow, there's a lot of people up there. And so that was kind of cool. We also have tried to work some with the library whenever we can, and we helped with the scavenger hunt, the Bigfoot scavenger hunt. So most of the clues, while Susan certainly wrote some of them, so we helped out a little bit with that as well. Probably we're working on a couple of things that we're most excited about now. One is refreshing the one-room school exhibit, and so we are researching about 25 one-room schools from the southwest part of Leavenworth County. And we've got a team of people working on that. We're putting together a PowerPoint that will become part of the permanent display in the schoolhouse. So that'll be a lot more robust exhibit, and we'll draw people from more around this part of the county. But probably the most exciting thing that we're working on is the Five-Town Picnic. So 100 years ago in 1923, Victory Highway was completed between Kansas City, Kansas, and Topeka. When we say completed, it was totally paved, and this was very unusual in 1923. So there was a big Five-Town Picnic, and Tonganoxie boosters were really big in promoting this. And 4 of the towns fielded town baseball teams, and there were baseball games, and people came to celebrate this. And Victory Highway Prior to that, Golden Belt Highway had been in that route, and then, of course, now most of it is Highway 40. We're working on that with the Watkins Museum. The Watkins is also working with the State Historical Society, and we are pulling in the Wyandotte County Historical Society and the Leavenworth County. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that there's a whole lot of interest. So this year, our project would be to continue our work in the barn, and we would, our programs are outgrowing the space in the church. So we'd like to put a big projection screen, a pull-down one in the barn, get an AV system that is reliable, a speaker system that we can use in there, speaker, not AV, and we're going to go ahead and buy some, what we'd like to do is buy some portable air conditioners. And it won't make it like this, but it will come close. And I think that if we focus on the days that it's really hot and put some extra, spend a day ahead of time cooling or that day, I think that we can get to have a much more comfortable space. So it's used a lot by the community, and we also use it for our programs. So any questions?
Now, what time of year is the chili supper?
February, usually the third February in March, or in February, third Thursday in February. Yeah. And it's a good one. It's, we've done that for, wow, 20, 30 years, been a long time. You gonna come?
Well, probably. I think the
Okay.
third Thursday is my birthday.
Oh, okay, well, there you go.
Anything else, council? Thanks so much for all you do,
Thanks.
Chris.
Yep, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Keita Kelly, and I'm representing the Tonganoxie Arts Council. And so far this year, we're about halfway through the year, and we've done probably about half of the programs that we've got planned. We started off with a children's storytelling festival. We worked with the elementary school to put that on, and we brought in 4 children's storytellers, ranging from an author to an actual storyteller, to one that teaches them how to add music to their stories, and one that uses puppets. And we felt that went over really well, and we're very happy that the school let us do that. We reached about 500 kids. We did kindergarten through 3rd grade. We, then, in May, we did the plein air competition, and we held that downtown. And we did not have as many artists as we have in the past, but we ended up with about 15 artists from the region that came in and painted different categories throughout the town. And then they displayed the work on the patio between 1866 and Kaufman Artworks. And it was open to the public to sell and everything. And we think that the reason we didn't have as many is because we scheduled it just 1 week after a great big one in Missouri. And we think a lot of the artists were tired out and didn't want to go 2 weekends in a row. So we're going to take that into consideration next year and maybe get a different time frame. And then in June, we had our art show, and we partnered with the VFW and with the VFW Auxiliary and Tongi Rec Commission. They had a booth there, and they were having kids do things. The Tonganoxie Lions Club volunteered to man the children's booth all day, and we were just really thrilled with that. That took a lot of pressure off of us. It was a beautiful setting. Everybody loved it except for Mother Nature. She decided she was going to rain on us 3/4 of the day. We had a clicker and we counted, and we still had about 800 attend. Had we had better weather, we would have tripled that probably. A lot of them came the first 2 hours while it wasn't raining, and then when the rain came, they went home, and then they didn't come back once it let up because they were already doing other things at that point. But the car show was going on at the same time, and we're really hoping to keep it at that location. It keeps it in town. in city limits. It's an event that's already going on, and it just adds to it. And the park is absolutely gorgeous location for that. With the sidewalks and everything, it was handicap accessible. It just met all of our needs. And let's see, then, September, we are hoping to do an art show as a fundraiser at the Legends Outlet. They reached out to us and wanted to know if we would be the art council that would plan that. They're providing the prizes and the space and all of that, and we're just registering art booths and kind of orchestrating the process. And we're real excited about that because we think our artists will do real well and we'll make some money with selling the art booths. So we're excited about that. In October, we are going to do a story slam at Ryan's Pub. And we're excited about that too. We're already in the planning process, trying to figure out what the theme's going to be and everything. And we think that encompasses a whole nother aspect of art with the stories. And then, if you remember last year, we told you we were going to apply for a grant from the Kansas Department of Commerce, a KCAIC grant, to put in percussion instruments at the Pocket Park. And we were very pleased to have received that grant. The grant period starts July 1st, and it goes through December 31st of next year. But we can't take any action or do anything until July 1st, and that was just a couple of days ago. So we're going to start working on that, getting the instruments ordered and getting a timeline to put those in, and then working on the unveiling of it and have a little ceremony for that. So we're really excited with that. And our hope is each year to do some type of public art. The grants are there. This is a 50-50 matching grant. So it's a really, I think, a really good grant. It's one they reimburse us after we spend the money. We give them the receipts and everything, and we'll get that 50% back. But the grants are there in the state of Kansas for public art, murals, et cetera. And so what we're doing a lot now is fleeting art, I guess. You know, we're having the events and the programs, but we'd also like to make more of a lasting impression on the city of Tonganoxie with the public art. So that is our goal, to try to do at least one public art installation each year. So are there any questions?
Any questions, council? Nope. Thank you, Keita.
Thank you.
Sorry for arriving late. Fallen mother doesn't make things go fast this evening. So TBA is putting in a request for $5,000, which is what we usually use for supplement to our budget. And every year our budget grows because we do more and more. Our events are pretty much fixed at this point, but we keep adding training and different opportunities for businesses as we've done in past years. But those are kind of in flux depending on business needs and what is attainable at that time, whether it be through social media, whether it be for training, whether it be for business opportunities, helping with grants, helping with financial assistance when needed. And it's not that we give the financial assistance, we help aid finding that for some businesses who struggle once in a while. So we've been working on some of those aspects as well. This year, we've been pretty much per quota what we've been doing. We had our pet health day, did not fall through because the very last minute there was a death in the family for our veterinarian who volunteers. So we're hoping to get that rescheduled for the fall. So that's our one thing we didn't accomplish so far this year, but we've done quite a bit more. We budgeted and set aside money for multiple years to be able to afford to buy nice pots that are sustainable downtown that we can water weekly and keep them growing instead of the small pots on the poles that tended to die because business owners couldn't water them or it didn't work out. But if you've noticed up and down, those are self-watering pots that are pretty pricey, but I think they look beautiful this year and they add to. So with the new development, possibly the street, it kind of puts us, do we want to invest in more? Do we want to see where we are next year? But that's our goal, is to keep improving things, not just through events, but through service. So if there's any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer. And we're always excited to partner with the city. I think Tongi Days is going to be a great one this year.
And Tonga Days is August 16th?
September
16th? September 16th. Any questions, council? The flower pots do look amazing. That's great work.
They're
Thank you.
really good. Thank you.
Mr. Porter, there's no action required for this. This is just for our budget hearing, essentially.
That's right, yeah, Mayor. If we have any feedback at future work sessions too, staff will do our best to communicate that to each of the groups that submitted requests and give them an update as we get through the budget development process.
All right, thank you very much. And thanks to all of you for all the work that you do. It makes the town a better place. Item B, review 2024 Library Operations Fund and Library Employee Benefits Fund budget proposal from Tonganoxie Library Board. Mr. Porter?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to invite Max Wirestone and Dana Splekow. Did I say your name right? I'm sorry. I always struggle. Got it, yeah. They're both here tonight representing Max as the library director and Dana as the treasurer and a longtime member of the Tonganoxie Library Board. The submitted budget for 2024 is included in your agenda packet for reference. It's a two-page or front and back document demonstrating their planned expenditures in a sort of summarized line item fashion for the operations mill levy and for the employee benefits mill levy. And just to give you a quick reminder of the arrangement, the City Council has the authority every year to set a budget for those two mill levies. The library operations mill levy is capped at no more than 5.95 mills by city charter ordinance, and the library employee benefits mill levy, which goes to fund things like FICA, insurance coverages, and pension and other employee payroll and benefits costs, is an unlimited levy that's allowed to be whatever level set. So to give you a quick reminder too, last year the budget for the two combined library mill levies was a decrease of 0.609 mills. So it still included more revenue collection and use of property tax than the prior year. So it wasn't revenue neutral, but it did slightly lower the mill levy from the prior year. And that was a function of just budgeted expenses being less than revenue available in the discussions we had last summer. But our goal tonight was to give you the two handouts you have at the dais, one of which is an examination of prospective 2024 mill levy, which I would point out are the yellow highlighted values. So the proposed budget for the operations fund is on the left-hand side of that set of tables, and it's 4.999 mills would be a decrease of 0.481 mills in that fund to fund the budget as presented. And for the benefits mill levy, 1.383 mills would fund that budget as presented, and that's a decrease of 3.391 mills. So net, that's a slightly larger decrease than last year. It's 0.872 mills lower than this year's mill levy. So just for a quick financial snapshot, that's what this proposed budget and revenue requirements would require. And I'd be happy to let Max maybe give you a quick rundown of what sort of programming and other budget changes are included in this 2024 proposed budget year, and staff also are happy to take any questions you have.
I'm tempted to do a song and dance about how well the library is going this year. I'll do it very briefly, which is to say at our last meeting, I think it was presented, we were up 31% over last year, which is wild. I think nationally a lot of libraries are seeing that kind of growth, but we've had it for successive years now. It's very busy summer reading. We had an event where I had to, in 25 years of working as a librarian, I had to stand in front at a point and start to be a bouncer. Is it just a midweek activity? We were thinking like 30 kids based upon prior years. At 60, we had to just stop letting people in, and we worked out it would have been about 100 folks. I had to stand in front of the library and turn people away, which is not, maybe that part is not great, having to turn people away, but the demand is really there this year. I think a lot of it is, again, the new building. People are done with COVID, and I think we have a good staff right now, and we're doing a good job meeting the needs of the community. Let me talk about the budget. That's all I'm going to say about, things are good in library land, but things are good in library land. In terms of the budget, I'm just going to quickly go over each kind of blue section and then salaries. What that represents is two things. One, it's a 4% increase for staff. Our deep-pocketed friends over at Baser went for a 6% increase this year, and Linwood, I think it's 3%, so we're kind of in between. The other thing it does is we're realizing with kind of the summer reading program being as successful as it is, it presents a problem, actually. If you're going to have 100 kids show up for a program, we're not really equipped to handle that in a number of different ways. So our cheap solution to explore how to solve this would be to have part-time seasonal aides, because we don't really need it in January. It's just we have this big surge in the summertime. So we're going to explore having 2 people who are just there for the summer. Maybe you can get like a retired teacher, or I don't know. That's our approach. We'll see how it goes, and we'll revisit it next year. But that's also something else that's increasing that line item. If we go in, any other questions about that? Otherwise, I'll just stop me if you have a question. Employee benefits. If you'll see, this is a reduction overall. That's because of the savings changing over to a healthcare plan, the new healthcare. So that's why that goes down. Otherwise, the increase is just from the FICA going up. But operations is kind of the big set of numbers. Most of these things, it's just iterative increases. The budget committee and I met to try to figure out what the actual costs were based on the previous year. So you see a lot of small, relatively small percentage-wise iterative increases for things. The more substantial changes, building and ground maintenance, it was a new building. We were kind of locked in with a vendor previously that we're not doing anymore, or we can't do anymore. And we never really adequately addressed what the needs of that new building would be. It was new, we were new, we didn't know quite what we weren't asking for the right things in some ways. So this better represents what it's actually going to cost to do that. Let's see, everything else is pretty iterative. Office supplies went up, but I cut it too much the previous year. That is totally on me. We're continuing to put more money in programming. That seems to be, and this is another national trend. Libraries are doing more and more programming, which is driving our circulation. Those things, I don't see those things as competing with one another. If we have a big event, if we can have the farmer's market at the library, all of that stuff kind of feeds back in, and it's more of the same thing. I think in many ways the money we spend on programming maybe gets the best yield in terms of results because it translates into other things. Let's see, the main thing I wanted to flag here is there's a reduction in technology services, which is a little bit illusory. There's a $10,000 cost we had, that was a one-time thing last year for a digitization project. So that number is decreasing, but it's really not quite as steep as it looks. That was just a one-time thing that happened last year, and we're not doing it again. That's my quick and dirty version of the budget, but I'm happy to go into the weeds or answer any questions that you guys have.
Council, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Is the grant income, is that Nichols income?
That is Nichols income, and it did go up this year. So.
Okay. And I just wanted to say on your programming, I like that you guys are spending more on that. I really love the variety of the program you guys use. I think my favorite thing this year was the daughter hair clinic kind of thing, where dads and daughters got, that was life-changing experience for me right there. But it's not just that. You guys do so many different things, and you just keep coming up with a lot of variety of stuff, and it's really cool. And so thanks for everything you guys do.
Yeah, I'll pass it along to our programmers. I think they really try, and it's a good group of folks. So.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Max. Again, Mr. Porter, this was just for budget considerations, correct? Okay, all right. Thank you, thank you. On this item C, public hearing, consideration of 2023 budget amendment to the Special Highway Fund and Capital Projects Fund. Mr. Porter? No, yeah, Mr. Porter.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor. These items are presented in a combined fashion, and I won't go into too much detail tonight because in several of our recent monthly financial reports and in several agenda items, we've given specific updates as to each of the individual funds, but I'll do a quick overview. In general, what we're considering tonight is a two-part mid-year budget adjustment. Two-part meaning two processes followed. Two funds require this use of the state budget forms. Those are the Special Highway Fund and the Capital Projects Fund. And with those state budget forms, what we're required to do is, just like we do for our budget development for next year, we schedule a public hearing, conduct that public hearing, and then consider a motion to make an adjustment as needed for the year we're in currently. For the other three funds for tonight, the Water Capital, Sewer Capital, and Fire Equipment Funds, no such public hearing or notice is required. And so the council can just make a simple motion to make adjustments to those three funds without other processes being followed. But what we'd like to do is give a quick summary for each of those five funds, what's being presented as a change, and a quick why. For the Special Highway Fund, earlier this year, we approved a contract with Metro Asphalt, including an ad alternate, which raised the contract price. So the street network improvements we just completed a couple weeks ago totaled more than was assumed last July and August when we developed the budget assumptions. We still maintained over $820,000 in fund balance in the Special Highway Fund, so moving ahead at a higher elevated cost this year was not a negative fund balance implication. With that, we would like to increase the budget to $631,000 from $480,000 for expenditures this year. That'll allow us to accommodate safely that project as well as the one remaining major project Kent and his team are working on, which is Church Street from 3rd to 4th, so on the west side of the library and schoolyard townhomes. That portion of that street to be mill and overlay treated by our own city staff. And so that is our last part of our program for this year, and we don't anticipate needing to come back to the council for another budget amendment for the Special Highway Fund before the end of the year. The other one in our state budget forms is the Capital Projects Fund. A few months ago, I think it was in May, we talked to you about the salt barn that was an unexpected repair. With that, we'd like to adjust the budget by $50,000 in that fund. That's a little bit more than the cost of that repair, but it also allows us to continue some other projects and have a comfortable margin at year end. That fund also has significant fund balance remaining, and we don't anticipate any negative impacts from that mid-year adjustment. The water and sewer capital funds, I'll talk about in concert. Those were affected by our purchase of over 500 water meters to replace non-functioning radio reads. We approved the budget last July for this year, and we made that purchase authorization in December. So that assumption was not factored into the development of this year's budget. And because it wasn't this year yet, we couldn't amend the budget because we weren't in the year yet. So this is to account for the purchase authority needed in those two funds. And those fund balance levels are also at a sufficient point where there would be no impact negatively from that adjustment. The expenditure authority that we're asking to adjust is an increase of $80,000 in the Water Capital Fund, and in the Sewer Capital Fund, $120,000. Those fund balance levels in each of those two funds would remain above $250,000, which is more than enough to accommodate any emergency break fix issues at the water or sewer plants that we maintain for those two utilities. Finally, the Fire Equipment Fund. In April, the City Council authorized purchase of a 2023 Chevrolet 1500 four-wheel drive truck, which was sort of an early replacement of a vehicle they had planned to submit as a 2024 budget request after we were notified by the dealer that a limited number of vehicles this year were available at current year lower price anticipated price levels. The sale proceeds of that vehicle are also factored in to this budget adjustment, so we would like to ask for an adjustment of $44,568 to help us complete that vehicle purchase, and also increase our budget revenue assumptions by $10,000. We hope that the Purple Wave auction would be more than $10,000, but that is a safe assumption that doesn't go too high above previous results we've had. So that is a lot of information in a hurry, but again, that was in our April financial report in detail for all of these funds, and I'm happy to take any specific questions or explain any other items you may have questions on. The two motions, the first one addresses in the agenda packet the two budget amendments for state budget form funds, and the second for the three that are not required with the state budget forms. But happy to take any questions you have.
Mr. Porter, is it possible to, next financial report, maybe you're better at knowing what I want than what I do, but maybe just a line of what the funds balances are? Could you give me something like that, and why that might be relevant to future budget discussions?
Sure,
Does that make sense?
And that's included in the agenda packet for today too, but yeah, definitely
Okay.
will do that.
All right. Any questions, council? So first, we need to open up the public hearing. Okay. And now open up the public hearing for consideration of 2023 budget amendment to the Special Highway Fund and Capital Projects Fund. Is there anyone who'd care to speak on this? Seeing no. Yeah. Seeing no one, I will now close the public hearing and move on to item D, consider approval of 2023 budget amendment to the Special Highway Fund, Capital Projects Fund, Water Capital Fund, Sewer Capital Fund, and Fire Equipment Fund, which requires two motions.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2023 budget amendment for the Special Highway Fund and the Capital Projects Fund as described in the agenda statement and the published notice of public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Is there a second motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 expenditure budget amendments to the Water Capital Fund, the Sewer Capital Fund, and the Fire Equipment Fund as described in the agenda statement.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion, all opposed? Motion carries. Moving to item E, Resolution 07-2301, consider acceptance of utility easements associated with project at 1520 State Avenue. Mr. Brakovich?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. This is to run a sanitary sewer extension for a project on 2440. It's the LAD building remodel. Previously, they had hoped to secure an easement from a different adjoining property owner, and for whatever reason, that property owner did not follow through or fulfill their initial commitment to that. And so they've the engineer hired for this project had went back and rerouted, found a new path. BG's had the chance to review this. Why it comes before you is because up to the point of connection where it's considered a private line, it is a public sanitary sewer easement, and as such requires city council approval to accept that as a utility easement. Anna's in the past has prepared a template document for us to consider these, and so that's the item before you, but I'd be happy to answer any questions other than it has been reviewed by BG staff and city staff and is a document prepared by the city attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Brakovich. Are there any questions for the city manager?
What cost do we have in doing this, George? Outside, it sounds like we have engineering costs and attorney costs on behalf, and we're doing it for the company.
Correct. So typically, we would deflect, if possible, any engineering costs associated with it. If there's a construction observation or anything like that, And in this case, really on the legal side, it's part of what we pay with our contract to have the city attorney. And since it's a template document, the cost associated with it is negligible.
So we basically have very little cost.
Not really. Yeah. I mean, BG's primarily reviewing it to ensure that it's an acceptable commitment to the city.
Any further questions? Seeing none, I would accept a motion at this point.
I would make a motion, we approve resolution number 07-23-01, approving and authorizing acceptance of City of Tonganoxie, Kansas, of general utility easements for Mark E. and Stacy Ladisick, William M. and Cheryl A. Emery, and William Homer Jennings, Jr.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Partridge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item F on the agenda is the city manager agenda. Do we have anything?
No items, Mayor. Just a quick reminder that City Hall offices will be closed tomorrow in observance of the Independence Day holiday. Thank you.
Sure. And in the future, we'll soon discuss what holidays on the calendar there should be, correct?
Yes, we're going to propose from the admin side of things to add a holiday to the 2024 holiday schedule.
Okay, thanks. Item G, city attorney agenda.
No items, Mayor?
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem agenda.
Nothing this evening.
All right, thank you. City council agenda. Anyone have anything to add? Nope. I have one thing. The VFW would like to rededicate that bridge that we helped finance on Thursday at 5:30 at the bridge, and would like any of us to be there since we helped finance part of that project. It's 5:30 on Thursday at the VFW bridge, and we have an executive session.
Yeah. I move that the city council recess into executive session for preliminary discussion of a potential acquisition of real property located at 605 East 4th Street, which is adjacent to other property owned by the city pursuant to KSA 75-4319B6. The open meeting will resume in the city council chamber at 7:53 p.m. The executive session will include the city attorney, city manager, and assistant city manager.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'm going to be recused from this meeting.
All right, thank you, Ms. Stephen. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're in executive session. Okay, we're back in regular session. Let the record show that no action was taken. That's the end of the agenda. Reminder about the bridge at Thursday at 5:30, if you can make it. And Jake, do you have anything to say?
I would like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. See you in a couple weeks.
Be in Chicago.